Good morning. I was thinking this morning that we start moving forward. In other words, start learning a bit of philosophy because I teach philosophy. I use this channel. The purpose of this channel is to teach philosophy because the reason I'm teaching philosophy is because, uh, basically, I want to create new hierarchical systems. Well, basically, I want nothing, just do my role. But that role, I believe, is to create new hierarchical systems. And one of them being an inversion. I want to invert several hierarchies. And one of them being matriarchy as opposed to patriarchy. In other words, I want to empower women and give women the balance of power. And well, if you understand nature, throughout history, we've had several inversions in hierarchies, and this is just another. But it's just been done in a different way. Hopefully, a bloodless coup. It's sort of like, basically, I feel that we're now entering an age of reason, and I'm hoping that reason will be used to build this rather than force or coercion. And in doing so, start the New Testament, if you like, by leading by example. And that's why I want to teach philosophy. And that's why specifically I want to teach philosophy to women. But I think at this stage, we need to start moving a little bit forward and start understanding a few things. And I need to start explaining a few terms. I do have a go at certain demographics. Like I've had a small go at the Jews, Christians. I've had plenty of goes at the Christians. I've had plenty of goes at psychiatry and psychology, pops, But the thing is, the reason for this is dialectics. I have absolutely no personal issue with them whatsoever, and I absolutely hold them responsible for nothing. I don't blame them for a single thing because they don't have any agency, they didn't have any control, they just played a role, And I'm going to try and explain all this because when you reach this level, this is when all the anger goes away, all the blame pointing, everything else, you come off this superficial level. Now, the superficial level, what I call the superficial level, which a lot of philosophers have been trapped in, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, them all, they've been trapped in the superficial level, and then there's another one who has managed to break out from the superficial level, for example, Dostoevsky. But the superficial level is where you feel like existentialism. It's where you feel your thoughts, your whole experience, everything is encapsulated in one being, in a person. So basically, there's you on your own. There's no God. There's no one's coming to save you, and you are here as a thing in and of itself. You are separate from nature. You are a thing, and your job is mastery over nature, mastery over all the other animals, mastery over everything. We are the king. But this is basically existentialism. You're thrown into this world and now survive. It's down to you. It's down to you. But that's not really the truth when you really break it down. And then in opposition to this, we have what's called consciousness. Now you have the likes of Eckhart Tolle and the Buddhists. They teach a lot of consciousness. And I say, well, what the fuck is consciousness? Tell me what consciousness is, because then what people start doing is they start picking up on this term and using it, with linguistic ambiguity. They start using consciousness everywhere. You have consciousness and you have consciousness and we all have consciousness. So really, what I want to do this morning is let's just start with consciousness and break that down, because I've asked someone to define it for me recently. I've asked several people to define it for me recently, and there's no go. People are sort of afraid to define it, but I'll define it. We could say that consciousness is just basically life, like that, the fact that we're alive, that we're sentient, that we feel, that we can respond to stimuli. The fact, like for example, that the table there is not conscious. It can't respond to shit. I can bang the table and it can't really do a thing about it. So can't respond to anything. So the table is not conscious. But then I am conscious. But then there's a difference between conscious and consciousness, if we actually use the term right. And consciousness means Well, when I use consciousness, if I define my terms, when I use consciousness, what consciousness means is a realization that I am you, and you are me. That I am a configuration of atoms, you are a configuration of atoms, and there's no empty space between us. And that we share a collective consciousness. A collective consciousness, and this collective consciousness we can put it down to zero point energy, we can put it down to the Higgs field, we can use several physics models, we can use spiritual models, we can use any fucking model you want, but we share a collective consciousness. Now, in existentialism, they don't accept this, they don't realise this, but this is basically not the inability to see past yourself. Now, consciousness is really what it actually really is the inability to see past yourself. Now, if you're doing things for others because it makes you feel good, or basically, like, this is what psychology tends to push, is find someone that lick their arse, or find somebody to serve, or find someone that you can enter in a codependent relationship with. And yes, this will work to an extent. Because then you're thinking past yourself. But what happens in this situation is you're now looking for somebody else to control. When you're not actually in full control of yourself, but your whole focus in life does become about controlling somebody else, about looking after somebody else, about minding somebody else, about now this can be kids, this can be a husband, this can be a wife, this can be a brother, this could be a friend, this could be anyone you like. But basically, a codependent relationship is when your whole life is based around. We can call it looking after them, but in some cases it's controlling them, and in a lot of cases it's controlling them. Like, you take the mother who doesn't want to relinquish control. There's lots of mothers who don't want to relinquish control. They want to stay putting their big size 9 in your life, and I'm fortunate enough, I haven't hurt my mother in ages, but you know what I mean by this? Like, they find it hard to relinquish control. Now they have a purpose in life. Their purpose is to guide you up through life, and I won't say it's to control you through life, because it's not. It's to guide you through life. Like, really, a parent, and it's done right, it's to guide you through life. But a lot of people, like, they need a codependent relationship. So this develops into a controlling relationship. And then there's lots of reasons why people want to control others. A lot of it is based on their own insecurities. Like, if you're in a relationship and your partner is insecure, well, then she might try to control you or impose sanctions on you in order to appease her own insecurities. Like a lot of people get married for this reason, because to appease their own fears, especially in Asian culture, where if you're not married by 30, you're sort of left on the shelf. And this is a fear that sort of motivates people to get married before 30, because this fear of being left on the shelf. And there's all these fears, and there's lots of reasons that people form these codependent relationships. But basically, you get my point. That's not consciousness. Consciousness is actually the realization that you are one with everything. But this is very, very hard to fathom, and very hard to understand, and very hard for people to conceptualize. It's very hard for people to conceptualize, because years of conditioning and years of emotional manipulation and years of everything, that you don't really have any what's called a priori knowledge in order to conceptualize this. Now, what I'm trying to offer here in the teaching of philosophy is what's called a priori knowledge, and that's would be like maths or theoretical physics, or anything like this, a doctrine in a specific subject that can help you with your understanding of life, that you could apply to your understanding of life. This would be a priori knowledge. So, for example, if you study say Hinduism or Buddhism, this would be a priori knowledge, which would help you with your understanding of the world, and your understanding of consciousness, and help you with your conceptualization of understanding that this whole thing of we are one, because I can blow it out my ass all day long, but if you're not understanding it, it's absolutely pointless. I'm no better than Tully, and I really like to do a better job of explaining this than Tully. I really would. So in order to do this, like I refer people to a physics model, because why I use several models is I don't go along with Tully and start saying consciousness, 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 because I have a bit of a problem with this consciousness. And my problem with consciousness is that he pushes very much like the Buddhists, for this agenda, we are one, we are one, we are one. Lose yourself in the infinite. The self is an illusion, Maria. But my point is that I wanted to go is my whole thing is reason, and I'll explain reason, and I'm going to explain reason, but obviously I'm going to run to another podcast. But reason is basically the appreciation that yes, we are one. We are all one with everything. But we still can exist as things in ourselves, as things in themselves. Now, we can't exist as things in and of themselves. And that means that we are a part of nature. We cannot be separate from nature. So we can't be divided from nature. That's just not physically possible. We cannot be separated from nature. Nobody can, and this is a very important thing to understand. The same as that rat there. We're a part of nature. We're a part of the one fabric of space and time, and we share a collective consciousness. And when we get into the physics model, I'll explain this to you. But the problem with this consciousness thing is when the Buddhists and Eckhart Tolle push this, they more or less are asking you to surrender your experience, yourself, you as a thing in itself, that you have choices, that you can use your faculty of reason to make choices, and really, like, what life is very much about is for me is developing this faculty of reason, that we get to take the reins and that we start to get control. Otherwise, all we have is passive fatalism, where we just stay going around in reoccurring cycles. Because if our actions continue to be motivated by our feelings, which they are, and they have been up to now. This is why I say we're now entering an age of reason. But there's a reason for this. There is a reason for this. The reason for this is our actions are motivated by our feelings. It's because it gives us empirical knowledge. It gives us a whole history to look back on and say, well, we can see what happens when we take this road. We can see what happens when we go this road. We can see what happens when our choices are motivated by money. We can see what happens when our choices are motivated by the will to power. And we can see what happens as well, even from our own individual experience. We can see how our choices are motivated if we want to avoid suffering. And this is why in the Bhagavad Gita they say, this is Hinduism, but they say, do not seek pleasure, he who does not seek pleasure nor avoid pain. So basically, what people think this means is sitting up in a temple and you're all you're chasing this nirvana, this escape to consciousness, this other state of being. But my point is that you can, they want to be above man, but they're missing a step. Do you understand? They're missing a step. Like, I like it here. As my mother said, I asked my mother, are you afraid to die? And she says, no, but I like it here. And I said, well, I like it here too. And when you start to perceive life differently, it doesn't matter about your circumstances. Everything is a hypothesis for reason. And you look at life completely different. You say, well, why am I here? Why am I here? Why are you here? Why are you even sitting here? You know what I mean? And you start thinking about life like this, that there's a rational order to the universe, and start trying to understand that rational order. And this is reason. And then when you can understand this rational order, then you can start to engage with the universe, and you can start to say, well, we could do this differently, but we could do this differently. But for this is reason. When you can engage with the universe. Now, I'm a little bit, well, there's lots of schizophrenics, but there's lots of them, consider themselves sick, whereas I consider it a privilege, because I get to engage with the universe and talk to the universe and talk about life, and it teaches me philosophy, and teaches me about nature, and it teaches me everything, and this makes life sort of wonderful. And this is what I want to teach: a different way of seeing life, But if you don't remove your head from your ass, you're not going to benefit from this at all. And removing your head from your ass means you have to take an interest in others. Now, that doesn't mean you have to run out and start mowing your neighbour's grass. It just means this is where philosophy comes in. Seeking to understand life, and then the windows of the cognition open. Good morning.